Hey y'all, welcome to Business Makers. Got an interesting episode for you today. Snow removal, organics. How do you make money off that? Well, stick around because I got Nick Bohner coming up to talk about. He's a young entrepreneur and he started these businesses up in Canada, and God's blessed him. And so very, very cool show coming up. Business Makers is about equipping entrepreneurs, business leaders, and investors to build, grow, and establish businesses for the glory of God. We are ordinary Christians striving for extraordinary results. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you download the app. You go to the App Store, type in Cross Politic or type in Pub TV, and you should be able to see our app. Also, don't forget, you can catch us. Me and Nick were live on Friday, talking, just answering questions and talking. Make sure you can catch that on Twitter Spaces, YouTube, and Rumble, and so forth there. Don't forget, we're going to be in Dallas, Fort Worth next year, October 31st through November 2nd for our conference, Prodigal America. Where does America need to repent? You can go to fightlaughfeast.com to sign up for that conference. Already have sold a lot of tickets to this conference. I think it's going to be more than a full house. We're very excited. We got Steve Dace already locked in, George Grant, Pastor Doug, Pastor Toby Sumter, and a number of other surprises coming. So would love to see you and your family in Fort Worth, in the Promised Land, eating some barbecue with us in Texas. Lastly, we got a number of new podcasts coming on our network. You're going to be catching Dead Man Walking on our network, and also a new podcast by Joseph Backholm called Outstanding. Joseph Backholm is just a political operative or political consultant out of Washington, D.C. He's fantastic. And don't forget our broader network with our Canadian podcast, Mark Dewey in the bullpen, Joseph Boot. We just got a lot going on our network, so thank you for supporting us and tuning in. With that said, Nick Bohner is a 23-year-old Christian and entrepreneur who lives in the godless and degenerate province of Ontario, Canada. This is in his bio. His passion is building unique niche model businesses which involve specialized heavy machinery. With a post-millennial worldview, Nick strives to absolutely dominate the industries he's involved in to the glory of God. Nick, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Appreciate your time.
Yeah. And Pastor Nate Wright is your pastor, correct?
Yes, he is. Yeah, he insisted I come talk to you, so here I am. I was worried about being church disciplined, so I said,
I'm here. I'm doing it. Pastor Nate also has a podcast on our network. You got to check him out. I've really enjoyed Nate's work, especially in the apologetics world and everything. So really appreciate your pastor. And of course, we saw him at the Ark Encounter conference
right
a month ago, and it's great to see him and his family there. So
for sure.
So you're a young man. I mean, you're 23, and when did you start your first? I think it was a snow business. How'd you get into it?
I've just never not been in business, to be honest with you. So I mean, I was okay. My first venture was selling vegetables from a garden I had when I was maybe 9 or 10, just going around door to door. And then very quickly after that, I'm in a pretty snowy area. So yeah, I think I was like 11 and just started walking around door to door sales. Hey, can I shovel your driveway? And everybody was like, well, not everybody, but more than enough to keep me busy, said absolutely. And so started with shovel and my dad's little walk behind snowblower. Mm-hmm. And really have a long-term vision for the snow industry, because where I live in Ontario, it's not a super professional game. Okay. I've always loved heavy equipment, always known I wanted to be in business, but snow removal and heavy equipment, especially on the, what I was doing residential, mm-hmm. the two didn't really go together, and I didn't really see a long-term vision for it. So plan was, just make some money as a kid, do that for a while, and then, figure out what's next.
Yeah.
To make a long story short, I sort of stumbled into the business model I have now on that front.
Okay.
When I was, maybe 13 or 14, I met my first kind of real mentor. Okay. And he taught me a business model that comes from Quebec, Montreal specifically, where they use tractors, like large agricultural tractors with a special type of snowblower on it, and clear. There's companies clearing tens of thousands of driveways out in Quebec with this model.
Yeah.
And so that's where I kind of saw, the two worlds could collide, where I could have, the machine focused heavy equipment business I've always wanted, and, just grow in what I was already doing.
Right.
And to make a long story short, R&D, rip off and duplicate. So I stole their business model, brought it here, and it took off pretty quickly. And that's kind of, anyway, that's went on a little tangent there, but that's that side of the business and kind of how it got going.
Yeah. So you mentioned, I saw your little YouTube kind of bio video that you have on your, I think it's your channel. You mentioned that you kind of took this Quebecian business model and brought it to your area, and kind of the current established snow remover industry was criticizing you. Didn't like, kind of wanted you to kind of get in line, do things the old school way. What was the differentiation in your business model that created some problems?
Yeah, so I mean, your typical company offering residential snow removal in pretty much most places in Ontario now is there's landscapers. They might do some landscape construction. They probably do a lot of maintenance, cutting grass, trimming hedges, things like that. And snow is really an afterthought for them. They have a truck, and so they want winter revenue, of course, and so they throw a plow on it and go to town. But there's really no structured model behind it. Typically they're charging per time rates, very disorganized. The level of service isn't there, the marketing isn't there, and it's just they just pitch it to their existing say lawn cutting customer base, and it's really an afterthought. So plow trucks, first of all, are a joke. Like it's not a real piece of equipment. It's really not designed. It's designed for driving around and towing trailers. It's not made for actually. And so just they have a very poor level of service. It's just not a appealing offer to the customer. And so what we really sell is an insurance policy for your driveway. So it doesn't matter if it snows once or it snows 100 times. We're showing up every time it snows. You never have to touch a shovel, and you're not gonna have any problems getting out to work in the morning. Flat rate for the season. You know what you're gonna pay. I call it a productized service. Like it's really 70-80% of people sign up right through our website. We're selling this like it's very, very consumer focused. Like we make this as attractive as an offer as we possibly can. And there's various reasons why we're able to do that logistically, with our efficiency, so I'll give you a classic landscaper truck guy might do 30-40 driveways in a night after servicing a few commercial lots, running all over to every corner of the city. It's going to take him 12 hours to do that. He's going to show up who knows when, could be noon by the time he gets to your driveway, and it's just a bit of extra cash. Whereas for us, our routes, each of my operators will service like 150 to 200 driveways in a 4-hour period. So we'll, typically like in a driveway, you're spending about 30 seconds in a driveway, and then next. So our model is based around we call it route density, kind of a nerdy industry term, but basically just means one driveway after the next. So we want a street, we want the whole neighborhood, as many as possible, because if we're already driving to the one driveway, our cost on doing the next one is essentially
minimal.
So we want just streets full of driveways. And we've been able to for the most part achieve that. Always room for growth, but in like Stratford, where I'm from, we're about 1 out of 4 houses in the city we service.
Really?
Yeah,
that's fantastic, man. Yeah.
So it keeps things interesting for sure. But anyway, that's kind of the model.
Yeah, that's really helpful. So you instead of charging $25 per driveway or whatever every time you go do it, you'll charge $500 a year or something like that, and it's unlimited cleans.
That's right.
And so you could be servicing that driveway from as early as October to as late as March or something.
Yeah, I mean technically our contracts go November 1st to April 15th. Pretty rare you're gonna get it. I mean, realistic, like a couple of years ago, we did get a snow on like April 17th, which is very rare. Of course we serviced it, because I mean, like, okay, technically, did I have to? No, but you got to keep people happy, right? So we went out, of course, but yeah, it's November and April.
And so part of the efficiency that you've been able to figure out is also getting people to just sign up on your websites. So your sales costs are minimal, your marketing costs are probably a little higher because of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then how do you get kind of a little more density in a neighborhood? I mean, do you just one neighborhood, let's say you're kind of entering the market into one neighborhood that you've never touched and you get one house. I mean, you're probably losing money on that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's sort of part of the business. Like when you expand to new areas, you got to kind of expect there might be a lost leader on a certain route for a little while. As far as getting, like, we do everything you can possibly think of. Big thing for us, each of our so we service about 3,000 driveways right now, and each of them has so they serve two purposes. There are snow markers that will mark the edges of the driveway, so our operators know where to clean to, but also they're totally billboards. Like, they got logo, name, website number, everything on them. Right. So one thing, it's funny, they always seem to come in pockets. You'll get one here, then all of a sudden, it's not uncommon, you'll see like 5 neighbors in a row, then there might be a gap for a little bit, then there's like 2 neighbors. It's sort of I don't know, people are funny.
Peer pressure kind of starts to sink in. My driveway's got snow on it, my other neighbors don't. It's like, you didn't mow the yard, kind of thing. That's funny.
No, it's so true. It's funny, like you literally just see the social proof working with our markers up. We do everything you can think of. A ton of online marketing, your Google ads, your Facebook, Instagram stuff. I have dudes out right now banging on doors, like very aggressive door-to-door sales, all kinds of door hangers, postcards sent out through the mail. We literally will send like letters to people, like we do any avenue you can think of. We basically advertise with.
And so the goal is, I mean, like, what would be your ideal target market saturation? If you're already like 25%, it sounds like that's pretty high.
I think we're pretty tapped out as far. So I have 2 kind of real main separate locations. Stratford, where I'm from, is a pretty small town. It's only about 40,000 people. So I think Stratford's pretty near tapped out, and I'm happy with where it's at. I don't expect a lot more growth there. London's our newer market, and it's 10 times the size of Stratford, so we don't have nearly the density we do there, of course. But I would say my long-term goal for the snow business is, London has about 100,000 homes total. We're not servicing even the whole city yet. We will be within a couple of years, but I'd like to get to 10,000 driveways overall, and then I think I'm kind of cool with that. That'll be what the small business will be. So anything, honestly, anything above 10% is pretty good. 25 or 30, amazing. So anywhere in that 10 to 30 range is what we like.
So go back and talk to me a little bit about the current, or the kind of the legacy way of doing it was, you'd have a lawn business during the summer, and then you'd convert your lawn truck into a snow truck during the winter. What is the inefficiency there, that where you go out and buy a $40,000 tractor and it makes financial sense?
So I mean, it's funny, our large tractors are like a full setup now. You're more like
70,
150 more. A little tractor now with a blower is $100,000 for our little tractors. Big one, like set up completely blower, you're getting closer to 200 actually. So really what it comes down to, there's a couple elements to it. Plow trucks, like, you'll never service anywhere close to the same number of driveways as you could with a tractor. Realistically, in the same time frame, you could do maybe, I don't want to exaggerate, but probably a third of the work, if that. So it's not.
So how long does it take a truck to clean a driveway versus a tractor?
Like a driveway that we could do in 30 seconds with our tractors, I used to watch guys in plow trucks take 5 to 10 minutes to do it. So it's a totally different equation. Like, our business model wouldn't work without the tractors and inverted blowers. It just wouldn't. possible. Another element to it too, though, is vehicles like pickup trucks, cars. Everybody knows they depreciate rapidly, and especially if you're beating them up in the winter, salt, things like that. Tractors not only sure, over a long period of time they do eventually depreciate, but like even tractors I bought last year actually appreciated. Like they're worth more now than I paid for them.
Right.
And their heavy equipment is a much better store of value, and so you're actually not losing that much on holding heavy equipment for a long period of time, provided you obviously take care of it and things like that.
Yeah.
So another element is we just have those assets accumulated, and they're actually valuable.
Yeah.
So that's another element.
That's huge. It seems to me like you have kind of really actually thought through the business model and the craft. A lot of people, I think, or maybe the cool kids think that, hey, you need to go make money in big tech. That's where you just make money, right?
Yeah.
And you figured out how to I'm going to make money removing snow. And then you figured out even the tractor thing versus the truck thing, even the investment in a tractor versus an investment in a snow truck kind of thing. And then in addition to this, the specific details of how long it takes a tractor to clear a driveway versus a truck to clear the driveway. You've thought through this business model pretty well, man. And I think part of this is this is how, God gives you a path. God gives you, this responsibility before you, and you want to do well all the way through it, all the way through the details, and not take for granted what God's given you. How how long did it take you to start taking this business model seriously? Because this question is actually coming from when I was younger. I did the lawn mowing thing in Texas, and I never took it seriously. All I did was just use it as a means to pay gas for my driving around in high school kind of thing.
Sure. Yeah.
And now I look back and I was like, man, if I would have taken that more seriously, I probably could have made a lot more money doing what I did, and not. Just if it's only in high school I did it, and move on and do something different in college, whatever, that's fine. But I just didn't even take it seriously like I should have. So you've kind of turned the corner somewhere in your mind. You turned the corner and started taking this more seriously and figuring out how to fine tune the business model.
Yeah. I would say it would have been end of high school. And truth, I'm a big believer in momentum. And I under different circumstances, I probably wouldn't have taken it very seriously either. I just, to be honest, just sort of stumbled in. Of course it was thought out, planned. We saw the opportunity, things like that.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, looking back, God just kind of opened up certain cringe cheesy term, but he kind of just opened up certain doors, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say I was probably 17 or 18, and we were growing very quickly, and things were moving along, and I probably had I don't know, maybe I don't remember exactly, but probably 10 plus employees by the end of high school.
Okay.
And so it was making money, it was growing very quickly. It became exciting because it was growing year after year very quickly, doubling, tripling every year. People were starting to take notice, we're starting to really piss off the local boys.
Yeah.
And then it became, I just saw the potential for it, and how kind of my long-term goal for being in a large scale, heavy equipment type business, and what I was doing at the time came together. And so, that was kind of the point where I was like, okay, well, I actually did go to school for marketing. Dropped out immediately. It was a total waste of time.
Yep.
And so,
none of this applies, and it's not helpful.
Yeah, exactly. So I think, there's kind of two elements that I was taking it pretty seriously at the time. And when I started in college, it was it was high school 2.0. You're doing math again, you're doing English again. And I remember I talked to the, one of the counselors, whoever it was, somebody, my grades were in the dump because I was actually working and not paying attention to school.
Yeah.
And they brought me in. They're like, oh, you're basically failing. This sucks. And I said, well, listen, this is pretty basic level stuff. I don't see how this is going to benefit my career at all. And well, if you want to put me in the next year, maybe it'll be more interesting. Sure, I'll stay. But if not, I'm not doing these high school repeat courses. Sorry.
Yeah.
And yeah, basically they kicked me out, and
Yeah.
I'm glad they did because it would have been a huge waste of time.
Yeah.
Uh,
Freed you.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
all right. So snow, it only snows from November to April.
right.
So do you mow lawns during the summer? What do you know? Did you flip that model? You take your
Yeah,
tractors
we
and
did.
mow
So
yards?
yeah, so it's funny as so that was always the challenge for the longest time. I really didn't want to have a standard, run of the mill landscape business.
Mhm.
Not to say there's anything wrong with that. There's people who are very successful with a traditional business model there, but it just really didn't interest me. I don't really care about planting flowers for Miss Smith or doing all these, cutting a bunch of lawns with little mowers and trimming. It's just there's a lot of elements to it, but on one basic level, big problem with a maintenance business, for example, is well, the barrier of entry to that business is extremely low. We all know
Mhm.
every kid cuts grass. So of
Mhm.
course that's going to keep the pricing at a very low level. And truthfully, there's just not that much money to be made in it.
Mhm.
There are guys who find efficiencies and find a way to build a significant business in that industry, but it's such an uphill battle and such a grind. And I know so many guys that are doing that and have done it. They have
Mhm.
tons of employees, tons of equipment, all this stuff, and they're not actually making any real money.
Yeah.
And so I was like, okay, well, that's not interesting. Not to mention, there's nothing unique about it. There's no like specialized equipment. It's pretty standard, right? And so I was like, okay, not that. So then I was thinking about but you got to keep busy in the summer. So at the
Yeah.
time, yeah, we were cutting grass, whatever, doing the
Yeah.
basic landscape thing. But I kind of hated it. I was like, I
Yeah.
knew it was not the way of the future.
Yeah.
And so then, got into some little landscape projects, little paver patios, pretty small scale stuff, but
Yeah.
small landscape construction. Enjoyed it. I like the creative side of it. It's cool. And certainly could have gone down that path. And there is money in that, no question. Um, but in analyzing that model again, it was kind of like everybody I know that owns a landscape construction business is very involved in the day to day themselves in the individual projects and the logistics that go into, say, building a armor stone retaining wall or a huge patio
Yeah.
or really anything you can think of in the large scale construction game
Mhm.
is the logistics and the moving pieces and the number of employees and all the different types of equipment you need.
Right.
It's a nightmare, honestly, and it's there are people who have streamlined it and made it successful, but that was another one where it's like, well, this is going to be a really significant uphill battle, and everybody else is doing it. There's all kinds of a competition in this. So, okay,
Mhm.
I don't really want to do this, but I'm like struggling for a couple of years. I'm like, I don't know what I want to do in the summer. And to make a long story short, I stumbled into okay, back this up a little bit. I knew for a fact what I wanted was a high barrier of entry business. So not every kid can do it. And actually, ideally, not most, landscape type guys can't do it. Like I
Mhm.
don't really want competition. I want something unique.
Yeah.
Um, Something involving heavy machinery. The more you can, I love people, love my team, but when it comes to your kind of grunt worker, it's can be hard to find good ones
Yeah.
on a ground level.
Yep.
And so the more we can minimize the need for hundreds of employees, the
All
better.
right.
I wanted machine focus, and also I just like that.
Yeah.
And obviously I wanted something that was specialized, niche, and could make a lot of money with.
Right.
And to make a long story short, I stumbled across this business based out of Toronto, which is about 2 hours from me.
Okay.
And it's a company called Land Source Organics. And so they had something called blower trucks where they blow mulch and soil and aggregate and pretty much anything you can think of that
Okay.
any organic material. This truck has I'm trying to think of it's hard to explain without showing a video,
Okay.
but think of just like a dump truck almost, but there's a huge blower on it, and you set up hoses coming out of the truck, and we can blow anywhere you can think of. 600 feet away from the truck, you can go you can go up 14 stories on top of a building and over whatever you want. Like you can blow material essentially wherever you can possibly think of. And I just thought it was awesome. I was like, wow, this is super cool, super specialized. I love this equipment. Nobody knows what this is. Nobody's doing this around me. This is epic. And so I kind of just I did some more R&D, rip off and duplicate. And I bought
great move. The business model's been tested, and you can see it, and
exactly. So I kind of took my old theory of just finding something that works somewhere else and bringing it to my area where it's not being done. So I sort of did that again with this model. Bought a really, really like horrible old truck. Like this thing was such a piece of junk. Like, we sunk unbelievable money into this thing. The headaches it caused, the brake, it was horrible. But it got me in the game. And through that time, I got very, very close with the owner of that original company that inspired me. Turns out he's actually a Christian, very solid guy. And he just took a liking to me and decided he wanted to help me. And he actually like private financed me one of their, real trucks. And, he's sort of an investor of mine now. And they just agreed to buy us another one. But anyway, we're in super tight with them now. Fortunately for me, I don't deserve, like I was coming in with the mindset, oh, we're going to compete against these guys. We're going to take them out. We're going to, win. We're going to take over the industry. And then it turns out they actually like just wanted to work with me.
They want to help.
And we'll see. I mean, he's in his early 60s now, probably looking to get out of it in the next little bit. So can't say I have the funding necessary to buy him out, but I'm working on it.
You've thought about it.
We're working on some stuff. So that's kind of my goal. I'd like to.
So during the summer, you blow like grass in yards, seed in yards. Give me a couple examples of specifics of what you actually do.
So there's really three main elements to it. So very different customer base. We don't even service residential with this business. So we sort of have three main customers. So it would be like municipalities. Playgrounds are a big part of it. So school boards, municipalities, things like that. So we'll blow in the wood chips for, topping up playgrounds or playground builders. So when they go install a brand new playground, we're their solution for topping it up with wood chips. So playgrounds would be about a third of the business. Another third would be large commercial landscapers. So, they would, they take care of all the malls and, large industrial buildings and things like that. And so we mulch the flower beds for them. Those guys love us because, literally one of our trucks will replace like 50 plus employees of theirs, shoveling with wheelbarrows in the spring.
Wow. Yeah.
So, we come in, we take care of all their mulching and that just freed up their entire workforce to work on, another.
Focus on another. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's the other element to it. And then sort of the other third is something called terra seeding, which you already mentioned. So basically we're blowing on a compost with grass seed injected. And you ever see like the kind of like turquoise blue stuff along the side of highways? So ours is not in my opinion, just objectively, a way better alternative to that.
Okay.
And so, with hydro seeding, you're just spraying on essentially water, grass seed, and that's essentially what it is. The dye you see is just a food grade dye, just so you know where you sprayed it.
Right.
We do is we actually blow on a real organic rich compost with the seed in it. So you're basically planting the seed as you apply it.
Right.
But same application along the sides of highways, new lawns all over the place, whatever. A little bit of aggregate here and there, soil. Some green roofs. We blow up big buildings to get soil on the top of the roof.
Wow.
Pretty much whatever somebody wants blown, we're gonna blow it. That's pretty much that business. Yeah.
That's really cool. And how long you been doing that? And is it at a point of like sustaining itself?
Yeah. So this is our year 3, and now it's like I would say finally solid. We have a solid customer base. We're busy every single day. Where actually we're turning away work in the spring. We just couldn't get to it. Now it's an established operation for sure. I got a real operations manager there. Actually just hired another guy to bring on our team, Christian guy, which is I like that having more of those on our team. I would say now I'm there's always whatever. You're always stressing as a business owner, things like that. But I'm feeling pretty good about our workload, and I would say it's a finally sort of a real, self-sustaining business. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. Last question before we close out here. What, being an entrepreneur, it's not easy. It can be frustrating, at times. It's always, I joke with my wife, if I was paid based off all the potential projects and stuff I have going, I'd be a millionaire.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
And oftentimes this is, I think part of it's designed a little bit by God in this way, but like oftentimes capital is one of the most difficult things to obtain.
Yep.
You know how to make money, the business model, how to grow it, whatever. Man, if I only had, $250,000, I know where I'd place it and I know what it would do. I don't know, just kind of a bigger question here, but like what's some of the challenges and one or two challenges that you kind of over time have overcome?
Yeah, I mean, man, and like there's so many moving pieces in business. There's a lot. I would say I've always been pretty good at delegating. That's, I shouldn't say always, but I've learned that. But there's two aspects to it. So I think a lot of small businesses. You ever read a book called The E-Myth?
No, I have not. I've heard about it. I know what you're talking about. But yeah.
Really good book. Essentially, what he talks about in the book is how most small businesses aren't actually really businesses in a sense. You think of like a doctor's office or some sort of specialist. There's a million examples, but take a doctor's office, something like that, where the doctor owns this business kind of, but the business is still him, servicing his patients. And without the doctor, there's no business. So nothing wrong with that. Self-employed, amazing, but that's not a real business. That's not a real corporation. And so some of the challenges as far as getting from that point where you're the guy doing the work, in whatever field you're in, you're getting paid for that, to take that from there's many steps in between, but that's one level. Then getting to a point where you have like a whole C-suite, you have all kinds of managers, you have a COO, you have we have people in charge of everything, to the point of now, like some days like I don't know what to do. I have to find stuff to do because everything I'm doing is like,
it's delegated. It's delegated. Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm kind of rambling here.
You drive a truck to Chicago.
I truly love road trips. This makes no sense from a business standpoint. Like, it's dumb.
It's like, I'm driving a truck and a tractor to Chicago right now.
No, that's just fun. Exactly, but it's dumb from a business standpoint. Like, makes no sense to do that myself. I just enjoy it. But you're okay. How do I even get on that?
I asked you kind of what some of the difficult challenges you overcome, basically.
Yeah. So whenever you delegate, it is a learned skill, because handing over something that you're very passionate about, that your name is on, that you're responsible for, nobody's going to do it 100% as good as you're going to do it. Nobody's as invested as you are. And so you have to come to terms with the fact that it's going to get done with the right person, maybe 80% as well as you would have done it. Right. But without doing that, you're never going to have a real business. And so you have to let go of the reins a bit.
Yeah.
So I say that in that's something I've actually naturally been able to do fairly well, and done time and time again, pass things on. However, I have made the mistake, on the other hand, I would say about a year ago, I made this mistake of being too uninvolved in a certain aspect of the business, fully trusting someone who I had reasons to trust, but I didn't fully vet as well as I should. And I would say delegating in the past had really, really paid off for me. And so I just sort of trusted the process, and he made a lot of mistakes and had a very bad attitude and ruined a lot of things I had already built. Sort of sent us backwards in some ways. And so I did see some red flags. I should have stepped in sooner, but just I just kind of, truthfully, I didn't really want to deal with it. It would have caused a lot of problems if I did step in soon. But it ended up causing even more because I didn't. So there's the two ditches, right? And so
Yeah.
I've certainly at times fallen into either one, and it's trying to figure out, how much are you overseeing things and how much do
Yeah.
you let go of the reins and you're on to the next thing.
Yeah.
So that's one I think we have a pretty good balance, but still
Mhm.
figuring it out by the day for sure.
Yeah. And oftentimes, when you delegate, sometimes, releasing the reins too early or fully stepping away actually sets that person up for failure.
Yeah.
Versus when they might have been successful in the long run if,
Yeah.
if you were more present or,
Yeah.
if the manager or the CEO was more present for a longer time and then handed it off better. I 100% know what you're talking about with the
Yeah.
delegation thing.
Yeah.
I can't function if I can't delegate. I can't
Right.
function if I don't have people I can delegate work to
Yeah.
through, because I have cross politic in the Fight Laugh Feast network.
Yep.
I mean, I need all sorts of help there, and then I
Yeah.
also have a public relations agency, Pango Media, where I need my staff there,
Yeah.
and everything. And then I got another business partner on another project we're working on, and we need each other on that.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, it's invaluable to find good people to surround you in what you're doing, and to be able to delegate well is, I mean, it really is an art. And do you delegate to this person or not? And if you do delegate, how long do you need to be present in that process and that handoff and that baton? And then the difficulty is getting to a situation where it's like, okay, I delegated and I shouldn't. Now I got to pull back.
Yeah.
And no one wants to be in that position, either side or whatever. So yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Very good. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for tuning in to this week's Business Makers podcast. Thank you for joining us. Make sure you share the show. We have a Twitter account, so you can actually follow us on Business Makers, at Business Makers on Twitter. So make sure you follow us over there. And then, of course, follow the Fight Laugh Face Network and everything we're doing. Share the show. You want to help us? One of the easiest ways is actually to share the show. So thank you for joining us. Again, we are ordinary Christians striving for extraordinary results. Thank you for joining Business Makers.